All right. What's up, guys? College football is dead. You'll get a look at our doomsday take on that today and why you should be concerned, especially as a parent. And is Bama done? And is Deion still king?
Ooh.
We'll talk about it today.
Let's do it!
All right, guys, and welcome back to the Fit Fat Dad podcast, where all good things start with F.
That's right.
Faith, family, fitness,
And football.
Got another football episode for you today. So, got a lot on the show today, and we'll get right into it. But let's start with Blair.
What's that, man?
Is Bama done?
I'm going to put it out there. Lifelong Bama fan. Okay?
Same here.
Yep. Okay. I don't think they're done. I think they have a lot of issues. But I also think that since 2008, we've been spoiled, right?
We have
bad
entitlement.
All right, entitlement. And then I'm going to follow that up with the last 5 years. I mean, how many quarterbacks are from Alabama are starting in the league now? Is it 4, 5?
Had a good run.
Yeah, it's been a great run. So,
yeah. And I bet you're wondering why we have sunglasses on, and that's a little shot at Coach, what is it, Norvell?
Norvell?
At Deion.
That's right.
We love Deion around here.
Yeah, we do.
But did you hear that Deion, in his new contract with Blenders, that over the weekend they sold, I don't know, like pre-order of 1.5 million of the new Prime 21 glasses?
It's crazy.
So, cheers to you. I looked into it, tried to get a pair, and
I don't know if you can pull it off.
If you want a pair of Prime Blenders glasses, they will cost you $67, and you're lucky that they may ship to you in January.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Backdated that much, huh?
Well, maybe then he'll be playing in the national
team.
If then, you may be disappointed that you get your glasses. All right, well, we'll move on. So we talked about it, but after the disappointing loss to Texas and even more disappointing performance to South Florida, experts and fans are blaming the struggling quarterback issues, the struggling OL issues, the lack of discipline, and the penalties. But what really gets me is the fans screaming for Nick Saban's
head.
It's
ridiculous.
And here, since we talk faith, family, fitness, here is the old faith perspective on that. I did a lot of reflecting, and one, the entitlement of Alabama fans. I'm an Alabama fan. Mm-hmm. We're spoiled.
Oh, yeah.
We're entitled. We expect that. But to go after Saban, who is the greatest of all time,
yep.
Nobody else is even close in terms of that champion. Well, there's close, but it's different era. So
let me throw this one at you. Are you ready?
For it.
I think a lot of the fans now, maybe they forgot about the early 2000s.
They don't remember the struggle.
The three Mikes. Well, Mike DeBose, Mike Price.
Mike Shula?
The
one?
Yeah, that's it.
But I just did reflecting on this, and I know we'll get into the meat of this, but after everything that he's done, and this is for everybody, right? The accomplishments or anything, at the end of the day, it's what have you done for me lately?
Oh, absolutely.
And nobody cares about it.
That's exactly right.
So if you're going to do something, do stuff for yourself.
Yep.
Like it's you versus you.
Yep.
And I know Saban doesn't care about our opinion or anything like that, but just the state of the world that we're living.
Yeah.
And
instant gratification, man.
Instant gratification. Doesn't matter how many national champions,
That's
Super
right.
Bowls, whatever great that you've done, it's instantly forgotten.
That's right.
And it kind of bothered me a little bit. So that's why we set our eyes on the things that are above. And,
that's right.
And we don't worry about
keep moving forward.
Worldly things. But okay, enough of that. But we had a special an interview.
Yes, we did.
With a great friend of ours.
Yep.
Mr. Ken Darby.
Former Alabama running back.
Great running back, pre-Saban days. And he just was... Do you remember the old Darby left, Darby right?
Darby right, Darby left.
Yeah, so
Darby up the middle.
He Darby up the middle. So he knows how to run the ball.
Smoke draw.
Smoke.
I think that's what they called it back then.
Had a good run in the NFL. Yep. So we got a great interview with Ken Darby, and he's going to give us his thoughts on the state of the Alabama team this year and his predictions. So we'll go ahead and cue that video. Is Bama only a few coaching corrections away and technique changes away to being back to where Bama needs to be, or are we a downhill slide at this point?
Nah, bro, we just a few tweaks away. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so the thing is, it seems like that's where he's most comfortable to get out of the pocket, throw the ball on the run, and there's no pocket, period.
Exactly.
So talk about it, man. One thing I was watching, they seem to really struggle in the RPO. And I don't know if it's because it's the reads or our line can't block the RPO as expected, but they lined up in the pro formation, just went straight ahead in South Florida at the end of that game. They really were able to move the ball and create holes. So take me back, man, like your Bama days. Is that something that you see with this offense, that we should just line up and go pound for pound and just manpower people? Like, where do you see that the opportunity is there?
I think we could. I don't think it'll be the smarter approach because so many teams will catch on it and build around it. So I think the RPO is strong on our end. And here's what I mean when I say that. Because if you keep Jalen in the game, I think that's his strongest suit right there. Because he can read and he can get out the pocket. He'll do a threat in that area. Now, when it comes to the offensive line, that's where we may have an issue, meaning that those guys are huge up front. We all know that. But they slow as Christmas as well, man. It's like I don't think they can get to that actual technique on an RPO read.
Yep.
And that's where you get a lot of breakdown ends at. So it's going to come down to the offensive lineman and coach working with those guys. But I think the RPO will be great because, like I say, you got Milroe on the backfield with our running backs, which our running backs are good. If you have that dual threat, it's kind of hard for any defense to keep two safeties in the back, two over top safeties. Because if that's the case, Milroe, we all know he got an arm on him. So if that happens, he can throw the ball.
Sling it.
Yeah, he can definitely do it. But like you said, it'll definitely have to start up front with those guys getting into their gaps and getting the right reads and reaching the right guys that need to reach and let the play develop.
Talk to me about Ole Miss, man. What do you think we're going to see? What do you think the defense is going to do against this struggling offense? Man,
I always like Lane Kiffin, man. I have, man. He doesn't have a different. He gonna bring it. Everybody know that. Now, what I do know is this: defense gonna take care of business, but you best believe they're gonna try to pick on our corners and safeties with the deep ball. As far as running the ball, I don't see that happening as much on our defense. Now, when it comes to offense, you best believe this man finna dial up some blitzes.
Yep.
He definitely finna dial up the blitzes, but that's to be expected. And so, this, like I say, I already know they're gonna come out and play us hard, but I think we can get rid of these boys early and quick if we come up with the right game scheme.
Yeah, I noticed that, people want to dog South Florida, but South Florida had a really good defensive game plan watching the Texas game.
Oh, yeah.
And when I went back and watched everything, they would line up a, walked out edge rusher, and then they would bring out another outside linebacker who would blitz or show blitz, but at least, that tackle's now having to think about him. And we were very slow getting off the edge. So I would think Ole Miss would do the same thing. So what does Bama got to do to counter that? Like, how did they overcome that? Because I think they're going to get that every year or every game this year.
Oh, they are, because you already exposed that our tackles are weak off the edge. They can't step out and block no edge rush, especially if you got somebody come out the edge that's pretty fast and athletic. So what you may see a lot of defenses do is you probably see a lot of them bring the linebacker down and come off the edge, or do what you see South Florida doing the twist team. To combat that, I think what they need to do is bring the tight ends in and keep the tight ends more to help out on the block read, then probably get out in the route. That'll be the best thing to do to keep those ends at home for a little bit.
Yeah, man. All right, not to put you on the spot, but looking at what Bama's got for the rest of the season, predictions.
Oh, man. I tell you this, if we continue to play like we did these last two games, I got us losing 3 or 4 games.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
Yep.
Yeah. LSU will be tough. Tennessee will be tough. And, Auburn's going to be tough. So it doesn't get any easier.
No, it doesn't at all, man. Ole Miss, this is really going to be a tough one right here, because Ole Miss playing good ball, and They always play us the hardest. It's just something about those Mississippi teams, man. They play us like it's a championship. But that's going to be a tough challenge for these boys. Now, if they play well against the Ole Miss, which I'm pretty sure they will, that'll give them boys a lot of confidence to pretty much take care of business for the rest of the year.
All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed that video and Ken's take. Do you agree with him? Is Bama going to end up with 3 or 4 losses?
I think this Saturday against Ole Miss is going to be the telltale. I'm going to reserve my comments until after Saturday. If it's close on Saturday, I will probably agree maybe 3 total. Win or lose, if it's close, I think we'll probably put 2 more on the board.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough one.
Long
All right,
season.
Let's turn the corner.
Yep.
Is Deion still king, or is Deion king at all?
I will say this. Are you ready?
Let's go for it.
What he has done at Colorado in a year, I mean,
not even a year.
Hey, Saban didn't even do that in 2007. Okay. Now, granted, you have the transfer portal and you have a bunch of things that, Saban didn't have back in 2007. But I will say this, watching the ball game and watching these kids, like, they have the mentality where they expect to win. They were calm during that game. I didn't get to watch the last half of it, but I watched the replays. But you just watched them play. They expected to win that game. Even early on when they were getting beat, like, they just played with, it's all right, we got this.
Yeah.
Next play.
And some could say, hey, we're giving them too much credit because it was Colorado State, but it's a rivalry game.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
That's right.
Throw it all out the window and everything that went in there. I thought, finding myself on Saturday, I was talking with a friend. I'm up really late watching a Colorado State game. Do you know that they set the all-time record for an ESPN late game in that game?
I did not know that.
Unbelievable.
Wow.
So
how many people are watching Colorado now? I mean, it's crazy.
They're the hottest brand in college football. Deion is a marketing genius, and we know that. We caught fire with Deion.
Oh, yeah.
Blenders caught fire. If you say Deion, you take off.
Right.
It is absolutely crazy. The prime.
Yeah, it's
the love of the prime. But how long will it go?
Again, I think it goes back to what you were talking about with Bama. What have you done for me lately? I mean, I think if they lose a couple of games now they beat Oregon Saturday. It's a whole another ball game. I mean, that thing's going to really take off. But I think a lot of people. What's the line on the game? I don't know. I think Oregon's
favored. Yeah, and I think it's a pretty hefty line.
Yeah. So if you go in, you play Oregon close, and you beat the line. I would say touchdown, 3-point game. Okay, you can still ride that train. You go in, you lay an egg. Yeah, I think it's going to start to fall off a little bit. Like they were hyped up too much.
Yeah.
The naysayers will start coming out.
Yeah. And they're there. Talk to me about what was your take on the sportsmanship of the Colorado State-Colorado game. There was a pretty brutal hit on Travis Hunter that he's still out this week. He's not going to play in that Oregon game. I think it's
he's like 2 or 3 weeks out. I think I read it was
liver,
like a severed liver,
which
will
like
heal on his own.
laceration.
Yeah, laceration, severed.
Yeah.
Laceration, thank you. Severed sounds way worse.
It does sound it sounds real bad.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a rivalry game. I think in any rivalry games, things are going to be chippy. Yes, it was a late hit. I also think, though, like I've seen way worse late hits than that. I think he just happened to catch him in the right position. But I've just seen way worse late hits. Was that targeting? Yeah, but was it? Hey, I'm going to take this guy's head off targeting.
Yeah.
No.
Well, and there's a guy between him and Travis, and you don't know if he stepped out of bounds,
right?
I don't know. But what's gone on with calling for his head and death threats? That's
too much.
That's way too
It's
much.
football.
It's football.
Yeah,
and it was a bad hit. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
but and our well wishes to Travis Hunter. But I also saw too about the Colorado vibe. Odell Beckham wearing a Travis Hunter shirt during warmups. I mean, think about that. I can't imagine. That's a whole nother level.
Yeah, didn't Lil Wayne walk them out? I think I saw a clip of Lil Wayne rapping as they came out of the tunnel.
Yeah, that and there was just a variety of celebrities. But can you imagine? Like I look back at my days and no comparison in scale, but if The Rock was on the sideline
Yeah.
for my game, I don't know that I could pay attention.
No.
So
No.
the fact that all of that attention they didn't, and I think there's a little bit of distraction.
Yeah.
And it's probably why they struggled. So I wouldn't look at like, oh, they had to go to 2 OTs to beat Colorado State. That's just a lot for any team to manage. But for the way that Deion's got those kids handling that level of media coverage, I mean, you got to think there's probably everyday media outlets or podcasters or YouTubes reaching out to get these kids on interviews.
Yeah.
Prime's doing 5-6 interviews a day.
Yep.
It's got to add up, and he's got them focused. I'm really interested to see how they're going to finish. So, Blair, when you look at the rest of the season, we've got Oregon. He got a tough slate. You've got Oregon, USC, Arizona State, Stanford, UCLA, Oregon State, Arizona, Washington State, and Utah. Right, and believe it or not, the year that the Pac-12 decides to go away, they're going to have their best year in college football. When you look at this slate, what do you think, man? Like,
I mean, legitimately, let's say you lose to Oregon. Who knows what USC is going to do? I mean, may be able to win out and get to Utah. I mean, honestly, I would think that would be it. So next 2 games are going to be tough. I think they can beat Oregon State. I think they can beat Stanford. UCLA is a toss-up. Oregon State's a toss-up. I think they can beat Arizona. I think they can beat Washington State and then get to Utah.
Yeah.
So 3 or 4 losses?
3 or 4. That's pretty good. I actually think they're going to beat Oregon. I think they'll go in there and they'll beat them. I think USC coming to town is going to be a whole nother level. And I don't think they pull that one out. I think USC pretty much.
Yeah, you think so? You think Caleb Williams does it?
Oh yeah. I think he hands it to him. But I look at the rest of the schedule. Utah will be a tough game at Utah.
Yeah,
I think that one's probably an L there. But I think they could probably make a pretty good stay. There's always the upset game, right, where a Stanford comes in there and knocks off somebody that they're not supposed to. So yeah, I think we're probably about 3 or 4 losses.
Okay, one more question. I know we got to move on. All right, if a 1-loss Colorado, do they make the playoff?
Absolutely, they make the playoff. No question. They would be the first team that has 2 losses that gets in the conversation with all the buzz around.
I was about to say, is that a prime effect?
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah,
absolutely. Right, like people want to like talk about how the Bama effect. Mm-hmm. You haven't seen anything to the prime effect, and I'm all for it, man. Get a new team, especially a team that went 1-11. And somebody that's going to provide as much. It's about ratings, man.
Yeah.
So speaking of ratings, let's get into our next topic.
Yeah, I love it.
College football's dead. It absolutely is dead.
Yes, agree with that.
That's my hot take on that. And you may be saying, well, it's as hot as it's ever been. That's right, because it's professional.
Yeah.
Right? It has turned into professional. And that's not what we really want to get into that. But so we're going to go with our doomsday scenario, which I truly believe that this is going to happen. Mm-hmm. And it should concern you, especially if you're a parent and dads like us. And if you've got kids in sports that their goal is to play college athletics and get a scholarship and you're banking on that. So we'll just lay a couple things out here. So let's start with conference realignment. So huge shakeup over the last 2 years, especially this summer. The Big Ten, the SEC, but the Pac-12, right? They have absolutely fallen apart. There's 2 teams left that are gone. So, I mean, USC, UCLA, Oregon, Washington went to the Big Ten, Colorado, Arizona State, and Utah to the Big 12. And it is a really bizarre move, Cal and Stanford going to the ACC. So you've got 2 teams, and they're actually, what I heard yesterday is they're looking at maybe keeping the Pac-12 alive, but combining with the Mountain West. And I'm not a big soccer fan, but it would have like a promotional league where they'll keep the Pac-12 as kind of like tier 1, and then the Mountain West is tier 2. And if you play well enough, like say you're in tier 2, you get promoted to.
Well, that's how they do it overseas. If you follow soccer, like you have, I don't understand, like you're demoted, deregulated, and regulated between like what the Champions, Premier, and all of that. Like I don't understand it, but it's all about wins and stuff like that.
It'd be strange. I don't know, but why is all this happening? And it's TV deals, it's money, and the Pac-12 could not get a deal done. The ratings don't justify it, and it's not that Pac-12 is a bad brand of football. It's that they're on the West Coast, and nobody is up at 10 Eastern time watching a game.
Or ready to start a football game.
Unless you're Colorado, and you watched it last night.
Until 2:30 in the morning.
So it's just really hard to sell that on a national scale. And where the Big Ten, I mean, they're centrally located. You got the SEC, central located Eastern Standard or Eastern Time Zone. I mean, that's what the TV schedule is built around. But the Big Ten, their deal is with Fox, CBS, and NBC for $7 billion.
It's crazy.
Billion. The SEC is $3 billion, but it's continually growing as they get others out there. The Big 12 is $2.3 billion, and then the ACC, which I think is the next conference to die.
It will.
They were locked in 2016 with ESPN, and I can't get the actual overall figures, but it is substantially less. To the point where the conferences divide up all this money to the schools. Each ACC school is, in comparison to like the SEC, getting $20 million less per year.
Wow.
And why is this important? Because if you look at the everybody assumes that it's big money, big business. And the schools are just raking in profits. There's probably 15 to 20 schools that actually have profit. They all operate at a loss. I think Ohio State's number one. They bring in something like $225 million worth of revenue.
Just through
or
football?
Maybe $250.
Just through football?
Not sure about that. That may be combined sports.
Okay.
Football pays for the majority, obviously.
Well, I mean, I think how many actual? I think I read this a while back. I think I read a study where it was like football and basketball are only maybe 90% of the schools. And don't quote me on this. I didn't do my research. I don't know.
Do your research, SMH.
Yeah, I know, right? This is recalling from memory where football and basketball are majority of the time the only profitable sports at a school, and then they support the rest.
They've got to do everything else. But let's look at it. They're paying coaches' salaries, the new equipment. I don't know what all is included in those line items, but I mean, Ohio State, it's
a big brand.
Their expenses are probably $230 million. So a $20 million profit for everything, that's good, but it's not the best. And they're number one, and I think you go down like with the big bloods, Alabama's number 4. But you quickly, like Tennessee's operating at a loss.
Is that with or without the TV deals?
That's with the TV deals. So think about that. And where we're going with all of this is the Power 5 is not a Power 5.
No.
It's not going to be a Power 4. No. I think we get to a Power 3. And with these TV deals as they grow, where this is pointing to is they don't need the NCAA.
Agreed.
They don't need the NCAA. I think it's all working to where they're pulling away from the NCAA, and the NCAA will die.
I don't know if I disagree with you on that.
Why so?
Okay, I think the Power 3 will pull away. I think the NCAA will still maybe manage all of the other schools.
Let me tell you why I think you're wrong.
Let
me tell you why. And here's why I think, as a parent, this is why you need to be concerned. So first off, the NCAA is gotten themselves in trouble by trying to regulate everything. I believe it was 1984, the Sherman Antitrust Act that. They used to control all the TV deals.
And
then the schools came and said, hey, you can't do this. So they lost that power. So that was in 1984 this began. Then to 2021, the NIL deal, right? That was same thing. And so they lost control of the athletes making money as well. And while that seems like a great thing as a college athlete, I'll be able to go out there. But if the NCAA goes away, here's some facts that I did. We already talked about how most schools lose money. The other thing is that the NCAA generates maybe 70% of all of their revenue on the NCAA basketball tournament. Right, and that's the only thing that they have a TV deal with.
Right,
is through CBS. And most people were like, well, what about the college football playoff? The NCAA doesn't own the college football playoff.
No, they don't.
That is its own standalone. So they get nothing of that. They get all their other championships. But they don't get that one. And so if we go to this Power 3, and they pull away from the NCAA and go in their own governing association, 70% of all their income comes from the NCAA basketball tournament. Where are they going to make money?
Okay, let me ask you this. All right. So if you go to the Power 3, right, then we see that's where it's trending. I think they still have the basketball tournament. And here's why. Is because think about all the mid-majors and the 64 teams. Like if you go to Power 3, you're not going to take a mid-major into that Power 3, right?
Yeah, you're not.
No, that's right. So, but think about all the mid-majors that make up that 64 in the basketball tournament. Okay, so is the Power 3 just going to be like, okay, we're going to have a 16-team basketball tournament to win the championship?
I think the Power 3 will turn into like 32 teams.
Okay, so is it just football?
And it may be more than that.
See, I think it's going to be just football. I think your Power 3 conferences, the way I think football is separating itself, in my opinion.
It could, but all these conferences are aligned, and I don't think they're going to be in cahoots with the NCAA in one sport and cahoots or not in cahoots in one sport.
But they kind of already are, though.
They're not. They're all governed under the same.
Well, right, they're governed, but as far as like since we say money's ruling everything, right? So if basketball tournament is 70% of the revenue for the NCAA, I mean they kind of have to operate within that, right?
Yeah, but the schools don't need the tournament, right? Like for the schools, power. Let me rephrase: the Power 5, 4, 3, whatever we want to call it. They don't need that. That's like a tip at the end of the year.
That's fair.
Right? They don't need that.
Yeah.
So why do they want to give all their income as much as the NCAA is making? Why do they want to hand that over?
Okay.
Because it's an opportunity to make more.
Right. So here's what's going to happen.
Okay.
Your small schools are going to lose out.
They're going to go away.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of all this of college football and sports is dead because everybody's like, well, the NCAA is a terrible governing organization. I agree.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that they are behind the curve. They missed the boat on the NIL and how to manage that, and they didn't think it was going to happen. Pandora's box blew open, transfer portal blew open, and they didn't handle COVID well. They were like, we're going to leave it at the conference and we're just going to go in the dark. So do you think they're going to be any – it's happening right underneath their nose and they can't stop it. And why I fear this is so all your mid-majors, so they take that basketball pot and there's some kind of like performance standard of how they divvy it out to the conferences.
Right.
But there's still a large percentage of that goes to every conference that made the tournament. And if they advance, they get more pieces of the pie. Right. But then there's a portion of that I think they call it the equal distribution fund where they distribute it equally among all conferences.
Right.
And so it's up to the conference on how they want to distribute that to the school. But and 60% of all their efforts are focused on Division I.
Right.
So it's really to bring along the mid majors. I think the NCAA only funds like 4 to 3% to D2 and D3.
Okay.
So after all this rant, where we're going with this is that's a substantial portion. Most people think that the schools are thriving off of ticket sales. When you get into the mid-majors, I'm a mid-major guy.
Yeah.
Very rarely are those stands full.
No. What do you think you played in front of? 5,000 or 6,000, 7,000?
The biggest crowd, at home, maybe 10,000.
10,000, yeah.
Right. And that was a huge day. I mean, there's been times I come out in halftime and I could like pick my mom out in the stands, and it was only her, or my dad, but I think there's just that. Okay, so they don't have that. That's not going to sustain them. The NCAA does provide a big boost, and then these Power 3 schools, they're not going to play the FCS schools of the world where they'll get $1 million paycheck right there, and that sustains them. So these programs, which are already struggling, they're not going to get those substantial injections into their programs. So you're going to see a lot of programs go away, which is really, really frightening if the NCAA goes away. And then for Division II and Division III, to hear that 4 to 3% of the stipend only goes there, that gives me a little hope for those divisions. But the problem there is a lot of people just think that their public perception is that the NCAA just is in the way. They're always causing like governance issues or striking down an infraction. But they do a substantial regulation of at least at the D2 and D3
Yeah.
and maybe FCS, because they can control that, of recruiting regulations,
Right, yeah.
and governance and education. They do a lot to provide that. So now that will be on the institutions or conferences to sustain that and keep that going and govern their own selves, which will cost tons of money. So this whole just rant about all of this.
You're going to have student athletes out there begging for money.
Right. Like,
it's going to be going door to door like in high school. Hey, will you buy a sponsorship sign for my baseball team?
my gosh. The whole point of all of this, and we'll put it in the upfront, if the NCAA goes away, there's a chance that the smaller schools go away.
Yeah.
The chance that it was already less than a 3% chance that your child was going to play college sports anyways.
Yeah.
So now you just take it to the NFL Part 2 or the NBA Part 2, which
Yeah.
will be the Power 3 conferences. That's going to be probably the same odds
Yeah.
as playing there. And it's just going to serve as kind of like a farm league,
Yeah.
which it kind of already does now.
So did you hear this? And this is, so we were talking about, NCAA going away, and I think this is starting to really solidify that. Did you know that Dartmouth's basketball team is starting to try to unionize?
I did not.
Yeah, I read that story.
Explain that one to me.
Okay. Again, research. This was me being a dad, getting away
Scrolling
from
your phone.
Yeah, scrolling my phone. May or may not have been on the pot. For all the dads out there, that's right. You know what I'm talking about, dads. But they are, and I think this has happened before, where a team has tried to become a union. But just my brief research on the subject, the first one failed. But the commentator, or the opinion piece that I was reading, was saying this one has a little bit more of a leg to stand on based on NIL deals, and that these students are wanting to be treated like employees of the university.
Yes.
And when that happens, now college sports are dead, in my opinion.
Do they want to? Because we when I went out to Stanford and we met with the National Football Foundation Summit, we worked through some of those exercises, and we talked about how can we fix the NIL deals. Mm-hmm. And one of the things there that we talked about is the key stars, right? They can get theirs to a point.
Right.
And then, or at least there needs to be a tax which goes into this collective equity pool.
Correct.
That all athletes can get. And you can't tell me that equal distribution, and I don't think it has to be equal, but that offensive line that's blocking for Caleb Williams, they deserve a cut of the pie.
Yeah.
Because he can't do it without them.
Yeah.
It's a team sport, and I'll never get over. And I'm going down a whole nother thing. But we talked about things on the transfer portal, but we also talked about students as employees.
Yes.
And that's a whole, because now the university literally, in terms of employments, controls you.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is different than a scholarship.
And I don't think these kids want that. I don't know if they realize what they're going, because now, like in an employee of any company, now you have performance reviews. Hey, you're not performing, you're fired. Get out.
Okay, let's talk about healthcare coverage.
Yeah.
Or
exactly.
I mean, are they 401k retirement? That's just
that's a whole other ballgame.
I don't think they want that. So let's briefly, before we wrap up here, so that's a big part of just to summarize it. If the NCAA goes away, likelihood that your smaller schools goes away, likelihood that your chances of playing college athletics as a child and as a parent, that should concern you. But the other thing, the NIL deals, let's talk about that for a little bit.
Okay.
As a parent, why that should concern you and why it's just absolutely killing sports. So Blair, let's talk to you about NIL deal. Why do you see this as a problem right now?
I don't think 18-year-olds should have that much money. That's my initial gut right out of the gate. And I'm thinking that from me. And that's my opinion, right? I don't think they're mature enough. That, especially if it's, hey, here's your $1 million, And I also don't think that it's setting them up for success for life outside of sports.
Yeah, So I think they should get paid.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that they should receive it all up front. Like, it should probably go into a trust.
You hit the nail on the head. I agree with that 100%. It should go in a trust.
Well, you just hear the statistics about NFL athletes and how they go bankrupt, and a lot of that is just because they want to do good, and they want to provide for their family and friends that have been without, or they've come from a not a really good financial upbringing, and everybody comes out of the woodwork as soon as they know that they're getting paid, and they don't know how to handle that. It's tough. I mean,
That's right.
We've all had people ask us for money, and I mean, it's hard to say no, especially when they're like, I raised you.
Yeah.
I put food on your table.
Yeah,
Remember
absolutely.
when I fixed your car and it cost
Yeah.
me $17,000? I want that back now.
Yeah.
They kept receipts.
Well, I mean, I'll use myself as an example. You know, in my early 20s, I wasn't married, didn't have kids, had a pretty good job, and let's just say I look back and be like, wow, I spent a lot of money. You know? It's like, where did that money go? And I know where it went, but it wasn't. And I was, 24, 25, 26 at the time, and now you're putting millions of dollars into, kids in pocketbooks and families, and I think having the maturity level to be like, no, and what to do with that. And then on that side, on the other side of it is now you have, you're talking about family members coming in. Well, now you get agents, and we interviewed Ken Darby, and if you can research Ken Darby's story. He had a financial advisor that went in and invested his money, and I think he spent 5 or 6 years in lawsuits with him.
Yeah.
And, his NFL money, and he'll tell you to this day, is gone.
Yeah.
He said it was misinvested and gone.
Gone. Just like that.
Just like that.
So you've got all these people that trust me. I know what's good.
Yeah.
Another thing, and especially as a parent and two kind of fat dads, you've got a daughter, but these companies and their brands, the exploitation of athletes.
Oh, yeah.
And at 18 years old, especially if you've never had money, like your brain isn't developed enough to have an understanding of, one, who you are,
Yep.
how association with one brand, like, you may not be a good fit for you. And you're just looking at it with money, but especially with female athletes, and I have a really big issue with this. It's basically sexual exploitation of female athletes.
Oh, I agree.
Especially in the sports like gymnastics. I mean, look at Livy Dunn. I've not really seen an ad where she wasn't in yoga pants or showing some cheeks somewhere. And that gets views, that gets likes. But think about all the comments and DMs that are dropping to her inbox right now.
Yep.
I feel for her, man. Like that's something that no child and their children should have to deal with that. And so we take it to another level, right? Like all these kids at Colorado, the Sanders brothers, I mean, there's probably some serious hate comments popping in on their social media on some of these deals that they're doing, and people, that's a lot for kids to handle. And then when you look at the pressure of business obligations while you're doing athletics and school, because they are student athletes first, the pressure melts up. And as we've stated in our earlier podcast, depression with this generation is at the highest it's ever been. And so I'm glad they're getting compensated. I am not glad with what comes as a side effect. And as a parent, I'm extremely concerned about that.
Oh, I agree. Yeah.
It's scary.
It is, I think as because we have young children, right? And, we have 15, 14 years to figure this out.
I've got a little less.
Yeah. I think we will learn more as this goes on how to handle it. And it's also depending on what our kids do. But you're also hearing now it's trickling down to the high school level. I mean, kids in high school level are getting NIL deals.
Yep.
That's ridiculous. This guy's never even played a snap in college football, So, but I think as a parent and all the dads and moms that are listening out there, if your student is at that level, you need to start doing your due diligence now. Don't wait. Figure out as a family how you're going to manage this, and you're going to manage the funds before it even comes out, right? And don't wait, right? Don't wait till, some collective comes in and says, hey, I'm going to give you $1 million, and now you're sitting there with $1 million check or whatever that is, and now you don't know what to do with it. I think that should be had with your student and with your child prior to all this happening.
Yeah, I think that's easy to say, but
easy to say
for those that have never experienced that level of income, and I've never experienced that level of income. I mean, if you get $1 million check, like, you can have a plan, and it's like, man, all these things that, oh my gosh. But it's as we talked about before, it's everybody else that you can't control.
Yeah.
And are you going to shut them off because they're family? It's tough. That's just a lot for kids to deal with.
Yeah, agreed.
So I don't know. I don't think that we are going to figure it out. I think it's going to get worse. I think that the problem is going to continue to develop. And maybe I'm just an old hat here. What I once loved about college football, college sports, just the purity in the game. And I know it's never really been pure, but at least as a kid playing it, you believe that.
Yeah.
And it wasn't necessarily exposed to you like it is today with unveiling of social media, and you can look behind the scenes.
Yep.
The amateur level, the fanfare, the tradition, the legacy. Man, it's not the same. And my heart for the game and these sports and what I want these kids, because it teaches so many valuable life lessons. I just feel like it's teaching all the wrong lessons now. And I'm concerned as a parent. Like,
I agree.
To the point where, my son, he's in his first year of football, and I don't think he loves it. And for so long, I've really tried to get him to love it like I loved it. And I just had a moment where I was like, man, if you don't love it, dude, like, that's fine. And I've always been that way, but I see in where it's going.
Yeah.
I don't want, hey, let's whatever you want to do, man. Let's figure it out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because if this is a route you want to go, let's go for it. But if it's not, there's going to be a lot of pressure. And by the way, if it's Power 3, there may not be a school to go to if you knock it into the top 5. So.
Or you're just going to school. You're not playing sports.
No, man. So hey, regular student life. So,
that's right.
Before we close, anything?
Man, this was a deep dive. It's scary. Like just what you're talking about. I think it's scary. I think you and I differ a little bit. Are you ready? I'm the eternal optimist, and I think you're the eternal pessimist.
I'm not a pessimist.
Not a pessimist. That's a strong word, but like I think you look at doomsday scenarios, and I'm like, no, it's going to be good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And pessimist was a strong word.
Well, in reality, it's probably going to meet somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, I think to save college sports, I think two things have to happen. I think. Especially, I think the transfer portal has to be changed. I think it has to be changed. There's got to be some regulation on that, whether it's, you get one time and then after that, that's all you get.
Yeah.
And two, I think there's gonna have to be regulation on NIL deals.
Absolutely.
If that doesn't happen, I think the doomsday scenario that what we talked about today will happen, and it's going to happen sooner than later.
Yeah. Well, but you still didn't answer the question of the NCAA and how they're going to hang on.
To be determined.
I just didn't see a good end for them, man. And maybe they got a bunch of smart people up there. Maybe they can figure it out, but I think right now they're just little bitty brother trying to hang on by a thread to get theirs.
I think there will be around in some capacity, and this is just my opinion, because there will be some sort of regulation across college athletics, whether it's an NCAA or they go by another name. There's got to be regulation, right? And I believe, like what we said, there will be the Power 3. The Power 3 are going to break off, and then everybody else, and whether that other NCAA, whatever acronym you want to call it, has anything to do with the Power 3, I don't think. Maybe not, but there's going to be some regulation for everybody else. There has to be.
Well, and again, maybe that new organization is the one that sustains the power for the other schools. So I hope
whatever it is.
Maybe that's
a lot to talk about.
Maybe that's the light.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, I appreciate you taking in that deep episode.
Yeah.
But again, we think that's very important for
That's right.
Share our thoughts. Interested to hear your comments.
Please.
Hey, if you want to debate us, if you want to go a different direction, please, by all means, put it out there. We respect it unless you aren't respectful to us. So we appreciate it, guys. Have a good one. Out.
See ya.